Welcome to the Book of Exodus series on the Town and Field Church podcast. In this 40-day series, one of us at Town and Field will be taking a quick look at one of the chapters of Exodus and sharing some ideas around the text. To learn more about this reading plan and podcast, visit townandfield.ca/reading plans. Now enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone, Talis Higuera here with you again today. So glad to have you with us as we take a look at chapter 31 of Exodus. And I'll tell you what, I'm really excited to talk to you about this chapter because the story of Bezalel and Aholiab that we read here in the first section of Exodus 31 means a lot to me, actually. And maybe part of that is just because I feel like I kind of relate to these guys. They are skilled craftsmen. These guys are like artists. They were creatives, and I tend to put myself in that camp. I actually recently had a Berkman assessment done, and I was in the 91st percentile for artistic interests. So I just kind of feel like I identify with these two guys, like they're my people, you know? That being said, I don't think there's any way I would have survived 40 years of camping in the desert with the Israelites. As it turns out, my Berkman assessment also showed that when it comes to outdoor interests, I only rank in the 7th percentile. So I guess that's probably where I might differ a little bit from my pals Bezalel and Aholiab. But anyways, we're reading about these guys, and we don't know a whole lot about them. I mean, their story isn't much of a story, honestly. It's not like it really makes it into the collections of Bible stories that we package up in board books for kids, right? But kind of wish it would, because I think there's a really cool lesson here that can speak to all of us. And it's certainly one I hope that my kids will begin to grasp and understand as they grow up. And that's simply this, that God gives us gifts so that we can give him glory. God gives us gifts so that we can give him glory. And, you know, this is just a brief little insert here about Bezalel and Aholiab, but it's really cool, I think, because, you know, we've been reading a lot in the last few chapters about the priesthood. And there were all these rules and regulations about these specific people who were going to be ordained and anointed for ministry as priests. But, you know, those roles weren't really up for grabs for just anyone, right? God selected one guy, Aaron, and his sons, and the priesthood was going to remain in this single tribe. And in some ways that can seem a little exclusionary, you know, like why did God make it so that only the Levites could serve him as priests? Like, does this mean that nobody else is as important as them, or like they can't be a part of God's mission or ministry? Well, no, I think we just look at Bezalel and Aholiab. Like, these were just a couple of guys. One was from the tribe of Judah. The other was from the tribe of Dan. And God specifically gifted them with skills and wisdom and knowledge. He gave them these artistic abilities so that they could participate in his work for his glory. And this is true for us as well. You know, like Bezalel and Aholiab and the skilled workers that these verses talk about, we've been given gifts and skills and abilities that can be used for God's glory, no matter what our vocation. Like these guys, they weren't priests, but God gifted them to bring him glory. Look, doing ministry doesn't mean you work at a church. Doing ministry just means that you use your life, your gifts, your skills, your abilities, whatever they are, to serve and honor God. Now, if we just move on really briefly to the second part of this chapter, it talks about the Sabbath, and we don't have time to go into a deep theological discussion about the Sabbath, but I'm just going to say this. I find it interesting that God has just spent all this time laying out like the intricate details of this huge project that he wants his people to undertake, you know, the building of the tabernacle, all these accessories and things. And then after all of this, he reins it in and he says, and by the way, don't forget to take a break once in a while. You know, yes, I've given you this big work to do. Yes, it's part of the mission. Yes, it's ministry, it's kingdom work. But even still, I want you to slow down once a week and have a little break. And man, that is a reminder that I need. Like God just knows us so well, doesn't he? So as we wrap this up today, if you're anything like me and you just want to be go, go, go all the time, let me just remind you today that even God rested. And that as you walk with him, as you serve him, as you use your gifts and your talents and your skills to give God glory, he also invites you to find true and lasting rest in him. Let's not forget that.